Hello everyone, welcome to this session on AWS CloudFront tutorial. We'll be going through what CloudFront is, how it works, and then I'll also show you how you can basically create your own CloudFront distribution for the static or dynamic website that you will be hosting on your servers. Alright, so let's get started. So guys, the agenda for this session is threefold. So first of all, we will be discussing what is AWS CloudFront exactly, and then we will move on it works. Once that is done, we'll move on and talk about how we can basically create a distribution on CloudFront by using the AWS Management Console. All right, guys, so this is the agenda for this session. I hope it's clear to you. Now, guys who are watching on YouTube, I will be answering all your questions. So if you have any questions, please put it down in the chat box. I'll be reading it out and then I'll be answering your questions. Okay, so with that said, guys, let's begin the class today. And let's begin it with the first topic, which is Introduction to AWS CloudFront. So what is AWS CloudFront exactly? So guys, AWS CloudFront is basically a content delivery network by AWS Cloud. Now, what is a content delivery network? A content delivery network basically helps your website to reduce the latency experienced by the user who's trying to access. What do I mean by that? Let's say you guys visit Intellipaat.com. Now that website opens in about 3 to 4 seconds, let's assume. Now, to reduce the time taken by your browser to open the website, that is taking that 3 to 4 seconds into account, given the fact that your internet connection is not a problem, is basically solved by CloudFront. Now, why are you experiencing that 3 to 4 seconds time to load the whole website? Now, the reason for that is it could be multiple reasons why you're facing that problem. Now, let me show you guys what exactly happened when you access a website. Okay, and by that, let's understand how CloudFront basically works. So, guys, this is let's assume a scenario wherein let's take the example of Intellipaat.com. So, Intellipaat.com is basically hosted on a server which resides in the US. Okay, now let's assume you are a customer and you are a customer from India who's trying to access this web server in US. Okay, so you are in India and what you're doing is you're trying to access a website which is basically hosted on the US web servers. Now, how would you do that? So you would do that by basically typing in intellipaat.com, which will basically route you from the internet to the US server, the response back. Now, everything seems to work perfectly fine over here, but the problem is that since the website is in the US region and you are residing in the other part of the world, which is in the India region, and the distance between you and the server is more, obviously the time taken by the data to travel is also more, and hence you basically experience more latency with respect to accessing this website. Okay, now obviously when you are talking about a global audience, the audience can be from any country, right? And it does not make sense to deploy a server in every company, given you're not a company who's at the scale of google.com, right? Google can afford to have servers in each and every country where the users reside, but let's talk about a startup like Intellipaat.com. They won't have this kind of an infrastructure where they can deploy their servers in multiple regions. Similarly, there are multiple companies as well out there, right, who cannot afford that kind of an infrastructure to have one server in each and every country. So how do you solve this kind of problem, right? The motive of every company is to give their users the best experience possible. With that, what I mean is, if they have a product on the internet, they want that product to be accessible by the users in the shortest time possible. So how do you solve this kind of a problem? So for solving this problem, you use something called as content delivery network. Now let's again take this scenario and understand how a content delivery network is basically good for you, right? So let's again assume you have the servers in the US, and now what you do is you basically make use of the content delivery network, that is the CloudFront service in AWS. Now what will happen? So you are in India, right? Example as well. And now what happens is this US server will basically, make use of the CloudFront service. And how it will make use of the CloudFront service? you will configure your CloudFront service to cache all the data which is there in the US server across multiple servers across the world. Okay, so now what is the catch over here? Right, the catch over here is that you do not manage all these servers which you can see on the screen, right? And all these servers that CloudFront will be, caching your data to. This is just an example. Let's assume there are 4 countries where AWS has their servers. So what we'll do is AWS will cache, or AWS will copy all the data which is there on your US server, and then it will store it on all its servers which are there in multiple countries, right? It will save the data in India, it will save the data in China, in Australia, in Japan, and what we are referring to over here is only the static data. Now what do I mean by static data? Static data basically means a data which does not change, data which does not need the use of any database, the data which basically can be just read and be given to the user, right? So what happens is, let's say on the US you have some static page, on the US server you have some static pages, right? Those static pages would be cached to each and every server in multiple countries. Now whenever the user from a specific country will try to access your website, he will automatically be routed to the nearest server, right? For example, the server in the US, it was cached onto multiple servers, and there's some user who is from India who's trying to access the website. And the nearest server to this Indian user is obviously the Indian cached server, right? And that is why he is routed to it. Now, what it solves the problem of latency. Now, because the server exists in India, obviously the time taken by the data to be less, and hence the response time will be less of your website. Okay. Similarly, if there is some other user, he will be routed to the Australian server. Now, your user will not know which server he is basically being routed on. That is handled by AWS in the backend. Okay. Now, let's also talk about the point. And what about dynamic data? What if I have a dynamic website? What happens in that case? So if you have a dynamic website, still AWS CloudFront can help you, but it will not help you in caching. What it will basically do is, uh, following the same architecture, if there's a guy in Australia and what he's doing is he's trying to access your website, and your website is through and through dynamic. There's no static page over there. So what it'll do is it'll route it to the nearest server country, and from that server's network, it'll connect to the US server of AWS. Now, what AWS does is it has its own internal network, it has its own network infrastructure through which all the servers which are deployed on it are basically connected to each other. Now, if these servers try to communicate to each other via the internet, obviously internet is huge. You do not have control over internet, so it can basically take more time. But when you talk about the AWS network, it's very fast, right? So let's say the dynamic content which was being served from US is now being served from Australia via the network of AWS. Again, the response time would be comparatively less than what it used to be when you were connecting to the US server, than a customer who's in Australia and who's trying to connect to this Australian server over here. Right? So this in brief, guys, is what a content delivery network is. Now let me show you how you can basically deploy a content delivery network for your static websites needs. Okay, so what I'll be doing is I'll be quickly switching to my browser, right? And first of all, we need a place where our static web pages will basically be held, right? So let's quickly create a bucket, right? And and we are creating this bucket in S3, right? What is S3? S3 is basically a storage service in AWS. So if I were to show you from the beginning how it's going to happen is, this is the AWS management console. So when you sign up on AWS, this is where you'll be landing. Now here you have to go to a service called S3, go inside it. And once you're inside the S3 service, just click on create bucket. Okay, so we'll be clicking on create bucket, and this bucket will be deployed in some specific region. So let's assume deploying it in the US region. let's deploy it in Ohio. Okay, and now let's give this bucket some name. Let's call this AWS bucket, right? And let's click on create bucket. So it says bucket with the same. So you have to ensure that the bucket name is unique when you're basically specifying. When I say unique, it not only but every bucket which exists in the Ohio region for any AWS account, it should be unique from that. So I guess if we type in AWS Intellipaat, that should not be used by anyone else. So let's click on create bucket. All right. So my bucket is now created, and doing is I'll be going inside this bucket, and I'll be putting some HTML pages over here. Okay. Now I have pages that I've already created. So let me quickly show you how those pages basically look like. 1 second. Okay. So they should be in my Finder on my desktop in static. Here they go. So let me upload these two pages in my AWS bucket, right? So my pages have now been uploaded to the bucket. Now what I'll be doing is I will be enabling, I will be for objects public. So I'll select these objects. I'll go to actions. I'll click on make public, but this option would be disabled in a new bucket. So what you'll have to do is you will have to go to permissions, and you'll have to edit blocks, and you'll have to turn it off and save it. Just type in confirm to confirm the changes that you have done. Click, and now you'll find static website hosting over here. Click over it and just click on the option use this bucket to host a website. Okay, it'll ask what is the index document, basically the document which will be the default page. So my document name is index.html. And what is the error document? More about this error document I'll be explaining you in a while. But if there is an error document that you have specified, just specify its name and click on save. So static website hosting has been enabled. And once you click on it, that you get from the bucket, which will basically be hosting your website. So let me go to this link right now. It will give you 3, and the reason for that is we did not make these objects public. So let's select these, click on actions, and now let's click on make public. Okay, so the objects are now public. Now what I'll be doing, going to this link, and as you can see, it says welcome to the Intellipaat page. All right, now you remember the error page that we specified. Now what the error page basically tells you to do. Here, if I enter any URL, any random URL, let's say I enter slash, right? So this path is not defined in my website. So if I hit enter, it will by default show me the error page. All right. Now any URL over here which is undefined, it will always show me the error page. Let's type in some gibberish text, hit enter. It'll again error page. So this is basically a very simple static website that I showed you guys how you can configure, right? Now what I'll be doing is I will be basically enabling content delivery network on this. Now, if you guys go ahead and access this link right now, right, you will be from your specific country. So let me do this quickly. Let me go ahead and show you guys on YouTube. So what you can do then is basically go ahead and use this link to access the website. So give me one moment. All right. So link that I just given you, if you go to this link, you will be able to access the website that I'm talking about. Okay. Now, when you can see that this is the gray page is the home page, and any other URL that you specify, that would be the error page. Now let's go ahead and enable content delivery network on this, and let's do that. So for enabling content delivery in network, what you'll have to do is click on services from your management console and type in CloudFront. Service. So this is the CloudFront service, guys, and I had already created one. I'll do this a little later, but first let's go ahead and click on create distribution because we want to create a new one. And what you need to select is the web content delivery network. The other one, the RTMP one, is when you want to have a video streaming service using CloudFront, but we don't want that, and also this is going to be deprecated. Everything is supported in web as well. So we'll be clicking over here for the web content delivery and get started, right? And now it will ask you these settings. Okay, don't get scared with all these things. I will be explaining you what these mean. So first of all, you will be specifying the origin domain name, and the origin domain name would basically be the link uh, static website. Okay, so this link we have just specified. Let me quickly check if this is the link that a bucket told us. So I'll go to properties. In properties, I'll go to static website hosting. And yes, this is the link. Okay, so I've specified this link over here in origin domain name. Next step we're doing, so automatically the origin ID will get populated, so you don't have to worry about this. You don't have to change it. Origin path, don't specify anything. Let's come down. Let's talk about the default cache behavior settings. Now, if you have an SSL certificate, you can basically specify HTTPS only, but since ours is a demo and for the sake of this tutorial, we will be selecting HTTP and HTTPS traffic both because we do not have an SSL certificate. Okay. Then the next thing is allowed HTTP methods. So these are some methods, like for example, if you have to push some data, you have to use the put method or the post method, right? So without getting our head into this, since this is requires you to know HTML, just select get or head method because that will be okay for the kind of demo that we are trying to do. When you become an architect, this information will be given to you by the developers as to what page does, and you can then choose which option you want. Okay, then field level encryption configuration. Do you want to encrypt the data? If you're posting any data, if your static web page is basically taking some data or getting some data inputted by some customers, for example card information, then in that case you will have to select the third option over here, and in that case you can choose to encrypt the data that you're trying to post on the web. Trying to do that, you can just leave this option. Right now, that this is a very important option, cache based on selected. Right now I told you you have two options in CloudFront. You can either host static content using CloudFront, or if you want, you reduce the latency by specifying that you also want to serve dynamic content using AWS CloudFront, in which it does not, but what it does is it makes use of AWS internal network to route to the US server from the Indian server, or from the Indian customer, or for the Australian customer, or any customer throughout the world. If they want to access the US server, it will be routed through AWS's internal network from the nearest edge location, right? So how can you do that? If you just want to serve static content, just specify the option as none. If you want to serve dynamic content, then what you have to choose is you have to choose all over here, right? Whitelist will basically tell which content to not. If you specify all, then no content will be cached, but the AWS internal network will be used. If you specify none, all the content will be cached. So since ours is a static page or ours is a static content related hands-on. So what we'll be doing is we'll be specifying none, which will basically cache all data which is there on the source which we have specified over here, which is our bucket. Okay. Now, once that has been set up, uh, TTLs are basically time to live, how much time it should basically cache the data. So you don't have to change anything over here, right? You can ignore all these settings. You can keep these at default since these require you to basically know about your technology more. So I guess since we are learning CloudFront today, for now you can ignore these things. In some future sessions, I can explain you more in detail about what these options are all about, right? Come down to distribution. So here again, there is something that you should know, right? Now you can specify uh, based on the spend that you want to do on CloudFront or based on the need. Let's say your customers exist in some specific parts of the world, right? So you need not cache your data to all the edge locations which are basically given to you by AWS, right? So in that case, what you can do is you can choose specific edge locations. So edge caching servers, you can specify specific caching servers where your data should be stored. For example, if your user base is just in US and Canada, you can just choose this option, and in that case only on these servers your data will be cached, right? Similarly, if these are the countries where your user base exists, you can basically choose this option, or if you want the best performance for your website, you can choose all edge locations, but this will see. Okay, so you can choose based on what you need, right? And then there is AWS web certificate. So this obviously as a demo we will not have, right? Now you can also specify domain names. Let's say the website that you have connected it to a domain name, right? So you can specify the domain names over here, and what that will basically help you is only from that domain name your CloudFront will basically be accessed, not from anywhere else, right? So you can specify it over here, and then only that domain name will be allowed to connect to your CloudFront. Otherwise, right now what we are doing is, since we do not have any custom domain, we will be using the CloudFront domain that will be given to us. Okay, but let's say you have a custom domain configured for yourself, you can specify the names over here, and when one name, but the way you specify it over here is, let's say our website intellipaat.com, you have to specify two things: www.intellipaat.com and then .com also, right? So these are the two things that you will have to specify over here. Okay, now we will be using the default CloudFront certificate. We don't have any certificate as of now, right? The default root object, if you want logging to be enabled as to if there is any data request for any kind of object, if you want to log all the information, you can also log it. And if you're logging it, you will also have to specify the destination where all the logs will be stored. So by default, AWS stores all logs in AWS S3. So you will have to specify a bucket name here, but we are going to skip this setting, right? And finally, the distribution state. So do you want to enable it or not, right? We want to enable it. Obviously, this is the final setting. So just select enabled, and now you can click on create distribution. Okay. Now this distribution of yours is getting created, guys. Now the distribution takes a little while to basically get created, right? It takes around 11 minutes to get created. But what we are going to do is, I'm going to show you this distribution that I created earlier, and this is a replica of what I showed you right now. It has the same error pages that are there on the other bucket. So this bucket is basically using a bucket called hello project.tk. So let me go to that particular bucket. This is the bucket that it's making use of, and this bucket also has the index and the error page. Okay, index.html have been specified over here. Now what we will be doing is, I will be basically going ahead and be showing you, since this is already deployed, what happens when I go to the link of this CloudFront distribution. Now this is the name for the CloudFront distribution. As you can see, when the moment I put the CloudFront distribution over here, I can see the home page, right? And if I specify any other URL over here, it will take me to the error page. Now, to prove the point that these websites are actually cached to the nearest server of yours, what I'll be doing is, let me go to my management console. This is my bucket, which is basically being pointed by my CloudFront. Let me replace.html. So as you can clearly see, there is a spelling mistake. Sorry, there's a spelling mistake on my index page. The welcome spelling is wrong, right? So let me go ahead and correct it. So what I'll be doing is, let me go to my text editor, right? And let me change this index.html, and I'll be telling it to be welcome to Intellipaat web page. Let me add some exclamations in the end, and let me change, um, the H1 color to white. The text will now be white. So let's see by pushing these changes to S3 as to what happens. So this .html, let me go to that bucket of mine, hello project.tk. I'll be replacing this index.html over here. So let me upload it. Okay, so it has been uploaded. Now if I go to the bucket directly from the S3 link, uh, you will be able to see that the change reflected over there. So let me go to the link directly. So this is the S3 link. This is a hashed link from CloudFront. If I go to this link, guys, uh, one second. And one more thing that I'll have to do is I'll have to make this index.html public. Okay, so if I hit this link, you can see that welcome spelling has been corrected, right? And the exclamations have been added and the index page changed, right? But when we talk about if I hit enter over here, you can see the changes are not being reflected in my CloudFront distribution. And the reason for this is that this website or this web page has actually been cached on the edge location nearest to me, away from the location that I'm trying to access. Now, even if you guys try to access this link, let me give it on the chat. You will be also seeing the cached page itself. And let me give you the S3 link as well. That will also basically give you the correct page, which is this page. Page has not been propagated to the edge location as of yet, right? And that's why you're seeing the old. Now, how do you fix this kind of a problem? Now, to fix this kind of a problem, what you'll have to do is you'll have to go to something called as invalidations in your distribution. Just go to that. Click on create invalidation and then specify the file that you have just changed. So I changed the index.html, right? So just specify a slash over here and then specify index.html and click on invalidate. So now what will happen is, as you can see, it is in progress right now, right? Which basically means all the content which has been cached, all the edge locations with respect to this particular file that we have specified, it will be deleted. And now when it will be deleted, when I go to my CloudFront distributions link again, uh, just give it some time. And once the CloudFront distribution, which it says in progress right now, is completed, see the updated content over here. So let's give it some minutes, a minute or two, and then you should be able to see the updated page. Okay, so now it says completed. Okay, let me just check what happened. Let me first verify if we have uploaded to the correct bucket. So hello project.tk, yes, this is the correct bucket. Here it's showing the correct page. Okay, let me open it in incognito once. Okay, it'll take some time, guys. Let's wait some time and probably will come. But the way you do it is like I told you, you just create an invalidation, right? And once you create an invalidation, what it does is it deletes the specified HTML from all its edge location, right? And then it basically goes ahead and update. Basically, the next time somebody tries to access the CloudFront, it'll basically again cache it from the S3 website. Will try to use it. Okay, so let's give it some time. It'll work. Let me show you the other things that you can basically work with over here. If you go to restrictions, now restrictions basically help you to restrict your website on countries, right? For example, what you can do is geo restriction, just specify it, click over here and click on edit, geo restriction, and now you can select countries where you want to block this website on. Okay, now when you block it on that particular link, what it will basically do is it'll give you an error message that that website is not available. All right, for example, let me blacklist India, right? So here is India. Let me add it and let me click on yes edit. Now geo restriction has been enabled and the type is blacklist. So now if I go to my CloudFront link, you can see it's throwing me an error page. Throwing me an error page because I've configured in my CloudFront that it should basically on a 403 error, it should basically throw the error.html. If I delete this setting over here, let me show you the default error which it shows. Is it from a blacklisted country in CloudFront? Now again this page has been cached. Okay, so now as you can see it shows you an error like this is the default error that you get from CloudFront, that the Amazon CloudFront distribution is configured to block access from your country. Okay, however, if you go to this link which I have given in the YouTube chat box, if you go to that link right now and let's say you are in some other country rather than India, you would be able to access this link. Okay, you can just validate it by putting it in the browser, and I'm pretty sure if you are in some other country you will be able to access the website. However, since we are in India, we will not be able to do so. Okay, so this is how you can also restrict where your website will actually run. If you want to disable it, just click on the geo restriction, edit it, just select no for enable geo restriction, click on yes edit, and now this setting should be reverted. So now if I go back to this distribution page, in a few seconds this setting will be reflected, and as you can see I'm again basically pointed back to my default page which was there for my website. Okay, now let me also show you one cool setting which I did earlier. So what you can do is if you do not want that custom or if you do not want that default error page, what you can also do is you can create your own custom error responses, right? For example, let's say you are accessing from a country which is not allowed. In that case, just specify the error code. Let's say the error code which you could see in the default page was 403. So specify 403, right? And specify the custom error response that you want to give, and give the link on your server. Like for example, mine is an S3 bucket. So if I give slash error.html, and the response code would be 200 on this error.html, right? So if I specify this, now whenever there will be a 403 error from CloudFront side, it will basically give me this particular error.html page. And this obviously I've shown you already, but this is how you configure it. All right. Let me try invalidating the index.html once more. And let me just quickly check as well. Uh, yes, so this Intellipaat web page is the correct one. So let me do this. Let me again invalidate this setting, because it seems on our caching server this is still not updated. So what I'll do is I'll again go back to CloudFront. Uh, and you can see the AWS Intellipaat bucket now. Uh, it's been deployed, and this CloudFront distribution right now it is still in progress, which basically means the invalidation that we specified, it still not has been deployed, and that's why it is showing in progress right now, and that is why we are not able to see that cached page. No issues. If I now if I go to this particular distribution that we just created for the new bucket that we created in this session today, this is the link that you will get. Go to this link and it'll again show you the same custom index page that we created. All right. All right, guys. So this setting is not working, but like I said, the moment this becomes available, it is right now in progress. That welcome to Intellipaat page will also be corrected and will start showing over there. Okay. So with that, guys, I think I've showed you pretty much everything which is there with respect to CloudFront. So I hope everything was crystal clear to all you guys. So I thank you all for joining in today. Let me quickly show you how you can read more about other AWS services, right? So we have a lot of blogs in AWS. So if you want to learn more, you can just go to intellipaat.com/blog, and you can basically start learning from there as well about more AWS services. So just type in intellipaat.com/blog, and here you will find blogs with respect to various technologies. Whichever technology you're interested in, you can read blogs about that, right? We also happen to have an academy page, right? An academy page of ours basically gives you some courses which we have made available to you free of cost, right? Now obviously these are not full courses, but these are courses which will help you get started in that technology. And if you want to self learn after getting enrolled in these free courses, you can actually research on your own and you can learn on your own as well, right? If you like our method of teaching, we also happen to offer premium courses, so that will be given to you on intellipaat.com webpage. So let's say you want to go ahead and learn more about AWS. So just type in AWS in the search page. You will find the AWS course, which is the most popular of us, which is the Solutions Architect course. Just go to that course, and this is all the things that we teach, right? So just head over to course curriculum, right? So all these are the topics that we teach. So I'll also be giving you this link on the live chat, so you can go ahead and right for your reference, right? In and with this, we also give you a free course on Linux as well, because we do understand that some people who are our subscribers or our learners, they could be from a background where they have never worked on Linux, and Linux is an integral part of working with AWS, since most of the companies, most of the production environments exist on the Linux environment. So keeping that requirement in mind, we give this free Linux training as well, right, when you buy the solutions architect course. Now, if you're interested, you can just go to the link that I've specified, see all the contents that we teach. And guys, this is according to the 2020 AWS Solutions Architect certification. So you can be rest assured that everything in this course is covered, which is required or expected from a solutions architect in the year 2020. All right. Now, with this, I again have one more surprise for you. Right now, let's say you want to go ahead and enroll in a course. We will be giving you a flat 30% off on all the courses that are available on our website, whichever you want to enroll. Just type in the coupon code YouTube30, and that should basically give you a 30% off on the course that you want to go ahead for. Right? If you are interested, you can actually go ahead on our website and you can call on these numbers, and we will be replying to you promptly. If you have any doubts, if you're confused whether to go for this course or not, our course advisors are here 24/7 to help you out. You can just call on these numbers and they will be guiding you as to which technology to go for with respect to the current background that you have in your job. All right, so with that, guys, I'd like to take a leave from all of you. I thank you all for joining in today. I hope you guys have learned something new today in this session. uh, Please subscribe the channel if you haven't already, and click on that notification icon to never miss out on any future updates from us. Right, we also again have a video, a live session on AWS today in the evening, so please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the notification. And we will be talking about how you can monitor applications on AWS using the CloudWatch service. Okay, so be sure to tune into that video of ours later in the evening today. Have a great day, guys. Goodbye.